Hey, it's King Ralph back here again with our Opinion City infield correspondent, Ben F. Silverio, who had the chance to interview a number of people during WrestleMania season last year. And this is a very interesting one because this is very wrestling adjacent. And when you watch the interview, you'll understand why. But Ben, who are you talking to this time?
Well, Ralph, I got to tell you, this was a really special one for me because growing up in Philadelphia, I got involved in the pop punk scene, the punk scene, pretty heavily when I was in high school, and one of the first bands that really led me into this was Bowling for Soup.
Hmm.
So when I got the opportunity to speak to the frontman, Jared Reddick, I was over the moon. I mean, he was in
Sure.
town to do tours at the Punk Rock Museum, which, if you have not been, is one of the best museums in Las
Hmm.
Vegas. It shows an incredible history of punk rock through the ages, from the UK, from New York to LA, like everywhere. It covers so much. And of course, Bowling for Soup is a part of it. So Jared will actually be back this year,
Ooh.
from April 17th to the 19th, giving tours. So will Peter Kohler of Sick of It All, if
Mm.
that's what you're into also.
Mhm.
Uh, Jared is so knowledgeable about the history of this genre. And
Mm.
so on his tour, he gives some really great insights into all the different memorabilia and the history going on, in these exhibits. But in our conversation, we talk about what led him to become a tour guide at the Punk Rock Museum, his career with Bowling for Soup, some of the
Mhm.
changes over their tenure. But the reason why this is wrestling adjacent is because
Mhm.
you may know that Bowling for Soup are huge Alexa Bliss fans. They
Mhm.
have a song called Alexa Bliss. And so we got into how that song came to be and how his relationship with Alexa came to be. And it's a pretty cool story. I'm really excited to share this one with the Opinion City faithful.
Amazing. Well, if you're out in Vegas, make sure that you check out that punk rock museum. You will not be sorry that you did, and maybe you can get a tour from Jaret Reddick and see and learn some things from him as well. But definitely check out our YouTube channel as we have all of our WrestleMania Rewind videos up, and enjoy this video with Jaret Reddick.
Punk Rock Museum with Jared from Bowling for Soup. How are you, sir?
Man, I'm doing great. I just did my first guided tour, and it was really fun. And this place is just amazing, and it's just so cool to walk through here, see all this historic stuff, and then see something of ours.
Yeah.
Really, really cool.
That's really what I wanted to talk to you about. Your first impressions of the museum
Yeah.
first, because like this is your first time
Right.
here, right?
Yeah. My first time here. My first impression is that anyone would enjoy being here because there's so much history in here, and you just I think it's to visually see it and to see sort of like all of this and how influential this kind of music and these bands and these waves have been on popular culture, popular music, fashion, all of those
Yeah.
things. It's a really interesting exploration. And again, I think even if like you're not a punk rock person,
Mhm.
it's really interesting and really fun too.
Yeah, on I got to experience your tour. It was great.
Thank you.
Now, you said that you were one of the first people that was asked to do this.
Yeah, before when it was just still being arranged, and I saw Fat Mike at an event, and he was like, "Hey, I really want you to do this guided tour thing at the Punk Rock Museum." And I was like, "Oh man, guided tour! Like that's right up my alley." And but it took us 2 years really to figure it out schedule wise, just because the band's been busy and
Sure.
which is a good thing.
Hmm. Absolutely. So now, with your first tour in the books, is there anything that you think you would do differently? Anything you would want to showcase more on your next time around?
I
Or
think I'm going to keep it about the same. I mean,
okay.
the way that I did my tour is I tell stories about things that I see in the museum, but I also keep it open to questions and to if other people see things that they want to talk about or ask me about or whatever. I don't really couldn't say that I have a vast knowledge of everything in here.
Mhm.
I mean, I was a metal kid,
Mhm.
who found punk really late. I really didn't find the Descendants and the Ramones just until 89 or 90, really. And so I was a little late on all of it. So it's one of those things where it's the movies, Decline of the Western Civilization, and the book Our Band Could Be Your Life, things like that have educated me on all that. So I can sort of spit that stuff, but again, I'm going to learn as I go too.
Okay. And, being a metal kid, there is some representation of metal here as, foundations for punk. We saw Anthrax up there, some of Motorhead, being represented.
Lots of things to where that were punk influence that, Suicidal Tendencies. I was actually talking about this on my tour. There were bands that sort of could go both ways. You could, if you were a metal kid in the 80s, you could still listen to, well, we listened to hip hop. So we also listened to Public Enemy and we listened to NWA, but you could also listen to the Misfits and you could listen to Suicidal Tendencies. And Suicidal Tendencies were getting played on Headbangers Ball, and so was SOD, and so there's a lot of that crossover that you see in the museum. And it's another thing that I said on my tour. I said, watch for that. Watch for these punk rock flyers that will have, just all of a sudden some band that you recognize as not really being punk, but it sort of works in some capacity, even in those days where bills were sort of sectioned off.
Right.
Music, since I've been doing it really since 94, seriously, when Bowling for Soup started, our bills were always really diverse when we were up and coming, because you wanted to appeal to different sections of the population, right? So you'd have like a punk band and like a hardcore band, and then you'd have a pop punk band, and as many different things as you could to just bring more people in.
Right.
But this museum represents a time where it was a way of life. It was less about money at the bar, so to speak. Which
Are there any foundational bands that you think should be represented in the museum that aren't currently?
That's a good question. I guess I would probably be able to form that opinion after another tour or two. I think they've just done a remarkable job at pretty much everything. It was really cool to see, the beginnings of it, and the British side of things, and the New York side of things, the LA side of things, and all of that, from the 70s and stuff, through the 80s, and to see all that, and then to be included in it. The early 2000s bands, we sort of have our own room and or two in a room, or we had a room and like another little section. It's just the coolest thing to just be included in this. It is an honor.
Hell yeah. Because, culture now is pop culture.
Yeah.
And Bowling for Soup has been paying homage to pop culture since the beginning. I mean, the name is based off of a Steve Martin sketch.
That's right.
Right? So, and then now you guys, for a whole generation, are the soundtrack to one of the most popular animated series of all time.
That's right.
A couple of them, actually.
That's right. Yeah. And that's an interesting thing to look at. Yeah, I mean, that the name is crazy because ours is a Steve Martin reference, but his is a reference to an old game show, that Bowling for Dollars. And so like that is an onion of a thing, but nostalgia's always been our thing. 80s movies, 80s music is what I started writing about when I first started writing songs.
Yeah.
And so the fact that, we've had hits that include all of that, it seems right. But yeah, I mean, to be a part of it, to be a part of nostalgia, to be a part of 2000s, pop punk nostalgia, Warped Tour culture, all of that, it's one of those things I'm really proud of. It's as I walked through here, I'm bummed because my boys were supposed to come, and possibly my daughter too, and my wife, and I want them to see it. I'm gonna get the whole family back here as soon as I can, because it's a proud pop. I feel like it's that scene in League of Their Own.
Yes.
You know what I mean? At the end where they all bring their families in and they see the thing in the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Well, hopefully the sad Madonna song isn't playing.
I hope not too.
Well,
yeah,
maybe something a little bit more
upbeat. I hope
upbeat.
it's Rancid or The Exploited or something.
Oh my god! The first time I saw League of Their Own and that scene played out, I was just like, "This is really sad."
Yeah,
but they're all really cool.
What a great movie, though!
What a great movie!
Yeah, just some really great nostalgia in that movie, and and a good historic, movie that they made interesting for those of us who, might not have known that we were even interested in that, and why there was a women's baseball league during this time or whatever. But man, what a movie! And how many times do you hear there's no crying in baseball?
Exactly.
My favorite line though is, "That was some good peeing."
So good. Well, if you think about like movies like that capture the time period so well,
Yeah.
What do you think you'd want to show in a movie showcasing the Warped Tour era?
It would all be backstage.
Yeah.
I think all of the show stuff would be montage stuff. It would, like, the shows themselves, the Warped Tour cult from a band standpoint. It was the camaraderie. It was the after the show. It was all of us sitting in our outside of our buses and vans and bandwagons and chairs and barbecuing food, whether it's at the main barbecue or, we always set up a barbecue and cooked and there's beer everywhere and there's, whatever. And people are setting up dice games and they're just bands. You're hanging around with bands that, it's like us and Avenged Sevenfold were big buddies in 2003. Those are two bands that you wouldn't think would be, we're hanging out all the time. And it's just, it doesn't really matter if you're the same kind of music or not. And that was the thing that we just fell in love with the Warped Tour. And the thing that when we did the last cross country one, and I remember sitting out there in Chicago and going, man, this might be it. This might be the last time we do this. And, I'm glad that Warped Tour's back, but we're all flying in, everybody can't tour there because you're only there for 2 days,
Exactly.
So, that's the thing that I miss the most. We get little reminders of that world sometimes at certain festivals and things like that, but there's just nothing like being on the road for 70 days with your buddies and, getting out there and grinding and working together. And, you've got a broken wagon. And so everybody chips in to figure it out, and there's a survival aspect to that. And that's what I think that the movie should be about.
Hell yeah. So, we're here in Las Vegas during WrestleMania weekend.
Yeah.
And I have to ask about Alexa Bliss.
Yeah.
How did that song come about? How did the relationship come about?
She's here, by the way, but she's I don't know in what capacity she's going to be seen, but my oldest son went through this wrestling phase, and it was fairly short-lived, but enough to where I took him to a few wrestling events. But the first one that we went to, he had decided that he wanted to go late. We were up in the nosebleeds in American Airlines Center in Dallas, and this roar of the crowd starts, right? And I look down there, and there's this little blonde-headed lady coming out, and just this petite little thing, and the firecracker, and it says Alexa Bliss. And I said to him, and I go, man, I think that girl likes my band. And he goes, how do you know? And I go, because somebody sent me a picture of her, and she's got a Bowling for Soup shirt on. And he goes, Dad, send her a DM, right? And I think at the time he was 11. And I go, you want me to send her? Okay, so I just went on Instagram, and I just go, hey, that was awesome. I'm here with my son. And she goes, are you coming backstage? I want to get a picture or whatever. And I'm like, no, I don't have backstage access to this, And so anyway, so we just started a dialogue, and she invited me and my family to Royal Rumble that year. We went up to Philadelphia, saw Royal Rumble, and met all the wrestlers. And she was so kind, and we became friends. It gets crazy because then she ended up seeing us in Florida, coming out on stage during "Girl the Bad Guys Want," and the song itself, I was just like, why isn't pop punk represented in the whole wrestling thing? Like, why is it always this, sort of like what we call cock rock? But nothing. I don't mean that as a negative. That's just what I call that kind of music. I don't know what else it is, but anyway, that kind of music, and so I was just like, I'm just going to write her a song. So me and my buddy Linus wrote her a song, and she came and was in my house in the video. We just became really good friends. Now, fast forward, Ryan Cabrera, who is her husband, I've known that kid since he was in high school opening up for Bowling for Soup in his band Rubik's Groove. And now they're together, and they credit me as not actually bringing them together, but I was their first conversation.
Oh.
And so now they're married with a kid, and so it's one of those cool little life moments. But we've gotten to be good friends. We played games together during the pandemic, and stay in touch as best we can. They're parents now, so once you become parents, it gets harder and harder for you to stay in touch.
Finally, Bowling for Soup has been around.
Bye. Thank you, guys. Thank y'all. See y'all next time. Take care. Gob tour. All right.
So finally, Bowling for Soup has been around since '94.
Yeah.
You guys have been staples. You have, like with Alexa and Ryan, part of fans' lives.
Yeah.
And you've gone through so many changes.
Yeah.
So what does the future of Bowling for Soup look like now?
Yeah. It's one of those things where, like, all of the changes in our band have happened so organically. The original drummer left after he was my best friend since first grade, and he just left because he couldn't do the touring. He just physically, mentally wasn't for him. And so Gary's been in the band since '97. So we really didn't have our first member change till Eric left in 2017. And then, and that was a band change. And then Chris retiring, you just can't, you can't predict that kind of thing.
Right.
And so there's never really been any sort of thing in my head or Gary or Rob's head to slow down. Things are getting bigger. Our crowds are bigger. Our streams are up. We're headlining Wembley Arena in December. We're touring with Simple Plan. We're back on Warped Tour. Our shows are huge in Canada, Australia, US, and we're just so grateful for it all. It's like I don't want it to end until it's time. And as long as people are into it, and I think, we talked about nostalgia. I feel like there's this nostalgic aspect to pop punk in general. Mm-hmm. We all just did 20-year anniversary tours, Story of the Year, Bowling for Soup, Less Than Jake, Yellow Card. Everybody's got an album that had hits on it 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. And so, Blink-182's back together, it's just a good time. Yes. For us, and the shows are fun, and people remember them, and they and they want to be there and be a part of it, and I'm down. I left out Newfound Glory, and I didn't mean to, but
and now people are bringing their kids,
and people are for us, it's 3 generations.
Yeah,
we've been around so long that those parents that were bringing their kids are now bringing their kids, mm-hmm. and in some places 4 generations. It's you got a 3-year-old kid there with his freaking great grandparents. What is happening? But
that's so wild.
But that's always been a Bowling for Soup thing.
Yeah.
Parents and kids have always been able to agree on us. And maybe that was part of our not coolness when we first got together or first started to get popular, because we were on Disney and we were on the radio. But we fought through that. We've got the respect now, and we're in the punk rock museum.
Hell yeah. Oh, Jared, thank you so much for talking to me. This is so great.
Thank you,
did a great tour. Break legs on your next tours.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me.